Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. And I want to start out by just thanking Carol Kellerman and Chairman Gibbs for giving me this opportunity to come before you today. I want to also recognize my great friend and a great public servant, the former Comptroller number 42, Bill Thompson. Here we go. And I do want to acknowledge somebody who gave me a very generous introduction, but who has been a mentor and a friend, and is somebody who's always had a love for this city, both in terms of its government and its people, and that's Ed Wallace. You're lucky to have him on this board. Thank you. So I've been Comptroller a full month, and I'm honored by the chance to implement my vision for what this office can and must achieve. I've always believed that the Comptroller has to be the primary watchdog of the city's fiscal health and an advocate for our economic prosperity. It's been that way for 2 centuries, since the New York City Charter first established the Office of City Comptroller. In 1812, the Comptroller issued its first general obligation bond for the construction of City Hall. And in 1873, after Boss Tweed's removal from power, charter reform gave the Common Council the power to appoint the Comptroller to maintain its fiscal and political independence from the mayor. A decade later, the Comptroller secured true lasting independence by becoming an elected official. And by the middle of the 20th century, Wallace Sayre, author of the classic text on New York City's municipal government, Governing New York City, described the Comptroller as a potential giant and an institutional rival to the mayor. Now, needless to say, we've hung Mr. Sayre's portrait in our office. We bought enough copies of the book to keep it in print. He is our guiding light. But in all seriousness, we're off to a great start. The transition committee has met my goal of recruiting the very best professionals to help us make a real difference for our city. And our 8 deputy controllers, 7 of whom are women, are at the top of their respective fields. They have decades of experience in both government and the private sector that will enable them to serve with distinction in the first term of this office. Now, in the first month, we've hit the ground running. Earlier this week, I testified on the governor's executive budget, highlighting the fact that the state continues to shortchange the city on education funding. We've completed our first and second bond issues and engaged in another round of Transitional Finance Authority refunding, saving the city $24 million. And we've launched the Comptroller's first ever top-to-bottom audit of the New York City Housing Authority. That is long overdue. Now, the Comptroller is charged with protecting our city's fiscal health. And one of the office's most sacred duties is to be a careful steward of New York City's 5 pension funds, valued at nearly $150 billion in assets under management. This pension fund is overseen by some of the most finest investment staffers in the country. And these funds safeguard retirement security for over 700,000 active and retired civil servants, including police, firefighters, teachers, and nurses who form the backbone of New York's middle class. We owe it to these women and men and every New Yorker to align pension management with best practices. As the financial capital of the world, New York City and its public pension funds should lead by example. We are entrusted with billions of dollars of worker and taxpayer monies. Managing these dollars with integrity, transparency, and accountancy is not optional, it's essential, and only the highest standards of ethical conduct will do. That's why I've come this morning to CBC, which for 80 years has been a valued watchdog of our city's economy and a powerful voice for reform. I'm here to announce a comprehensive pension, ethics, and oversight plan for our city. It's a plan that will address potential conflicts of interest, strengthen internal controls and governance, and increase the transparency and efficiency of our pension fund operations. Our 6-point plan starts by erecting a steel barrier against play abuses in our pension fund. In 2009, as a trustee of NYSERS, I was the first to call for a ban on private placement agents in the city's pension funds. All too often, they have provided little value at taxpayer expense. However, while Comptroller DiNapoli banned the use of placement agents at the state pension fund 5 years ago, the blanket prohibition did not extend to city funds. Currently, our funds only ban placement agents for private equity investments. We must have a broader formal ban to ensure that New York City does not experience the pay-to-play scandals that have plagued other funds in recent years. These scandals cost taxpayer money and undermine public confidence and support for pensions. The city's pension funds and our Bureau of Asset Management have an open-door policy. We are willing to meet with any qualified firm interested in serving as an investment manager. Nobody needs a middleman to get them in our door. So today, as part of my reform agenda, I want to make something very clear to all of you. I will offer a resolution to my fellow trustees to ban all placement agents in New York City's public pension funds, not just from private equity, but from all asset classes. It's long overdue. Second, I will dramatically reform policies and procedures governing our in-house asset management team. It starts by applying lessons learned from the recent financial crisis. All too often, in the quest for quick profits, risk managers were little more than voices crying in the wilderness, with limited access to decision makers and little power to change corporate behavior. I will appoint senior risk and compliance officers to strengthen, monitor, and continually improve the risk and compliance measures throughout our asset management operations. These professionals will report directly to me, ensuring that these critical issues and concerns have the independent voice and are heard loud and clear in my office. Third, I will enact an investment disclosure policy that requires relevant employees to regularly report their personal trading. This policy will ensure that in handling investment matters for the funds, employees are looking out only for the best interests of the fund. Fourth, I will redouble our efforts to develop an enhanced internal process for reviewing disability payments. We have seen how certain claims by unscrupulous actors, most recently those related to Social Security disability, can cost millions of dollars and unfairly taint the whole benefits program. Our enhanced review process will commit and protect taxpayers and honor our commitment to hardworking city employees by preserving benefits for those that truly need them. And fifth, for the first time, we will implement cutting-edge training on ethics, conflicts of interest, and financial regulation, so that our staff has the tools it needs to exercise better oversight over our external managers. This training would go beyond what they currently receive under conflicts of interest board rules and procedures. Everyone involved will know that we are serious about preventing practices that may taint our fund or negatively affect shareholder value. This is particularly critical today in an era of unprecedented complexity. I will work to ensure that everyone on our staff understands the operation of foreign asset control compliance, as well as anti-money laundering controls designed to block funds from falling into the hands of terrorists. Our personnel must also have heightened awareness of the requirements imposed upon our investment managers by the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which recently ensnared some of America's best-known corporations, from Walmart to Pfizer. We expect our investment managers to exercise due diligence with respect to their investment decision-making. And lastly, I will appoint an internal auditor and appoint an internal audit committee to ensure that all of these operations are running effectively. I want to ensure that the Bureau of Asset Management complies with policies and procedures covering everything from conflicts and personal trading to cash management and bank reconciliations. The auditors will report directly to me to provide an independent, unfiltered assessment of how well BAM is adhering to those practices. To emphasize just how critical these reforms are to my administration, I've designated my general counsel, Kay Diaz, to implement the 6-point plan with the assistance of our deputy controllers. Before coming to the controller's office, Kay was special counsel to Superintendent Benjamin Lawsky, the New York State Department of Financial Services, and senior trial counsel at the State Attorney General's office. Please welcome Kay today. Her experience dovetails perfectly with the goals of these reforms, and I am confident that under her leadership we will set an example for controllers and treasurers across the country to follow. So much of the recent financial crisis involved the lack of systemic efforts to assess and control risk, and too much effort to evade rather than implement best practices. The truth is that our pension funds share the goal of regulators to protect the long-term health of city pension funds through high ethical standards and best practices. The measures I am enacting are central to the Comptroller's historic role as the arbiter of our city's finances and the protector of its pension funds. And they underscore the goal of this transition moment, which has been to build the capacity of this great office, to monitor city agencies, to root out waste and fraud, to offer top-of-the-line economic analysis about the future of our city's economy and our fiscal health, and to identify creative policies to tackle our city's most pressing problems, all of which have a financial component. We also must safeguard the retirement security of our municipal workforce. So in the coming months, you will see more ways in which we are reimagining the Office of Comptroller. We want to put this office to use on behalf of the people of the city of New York. This has been an office that has had a great history as a guide for our city government. But the truth is, if we're going to hold city agencies accountable, and if we're going to be the chief watchdog and the financial industry's go-to on investments, we must start by ensuring our own house is in order. And that's why the 6-point ethics and oversight plan is such an important priority. I look forward to working with all of you, those on Wall Street, those in private industry, those who are part of the unions that work so hard for the city. All of us have a stake in ethics and reform. All of us understand that in order to realize the hopes and aspirations of our city, we need to raise the bar. We need to be transparent. We need to recognize that as we move to a new city government, we also have to recognize that this office is the place where the public purse needs to be watched and monitored. And I believe that the ethics and government reforms we institute today, the opportunity for risk management, to bring in auditors who will generate the kind of review directly to me, is exactly what we need in our first 30 days in office. I'm very proud to be here with all of you, because I think this is such an important organization to the discussion of the future of our city's finances. I wanted to come here today and tell you all this personally and have this discussion. Thank you, Carol, for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to working with all of you in the next 4 years. Thank you very much.